Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Dream, and you have found yourself once again at the It's All Good show. My guest today is very special. I put out an announcement like I like to do every once in a while on social media, like, hey, who wants to be on a podcast? And it's not that I don't know enough people. It's just that I like to see who the universe sends me. And boy, did the universe send me someone special. Now, if you all have watched my podcast before, I go out of my way not to ever read someone's bio. I like to have them introduce themselves. I find that most of the bios that are sent to me are just boring as all get out. They're just like, I don't want to read that. Well, this person's bio is the exception. And I gotta tell you, I have to read it. Like it's too good, and it elicits such good energy and feeling. So, our guest today on the It's All Good show is Gina Starbuck. She is a retreat leader, embodiment expert, published author, and multidimensional medicine woman known for her electric, immersive experiences that awaken the soul. A master of movement, sound, and energy alchemy, she guides people into radical self-love, creative liberation, and embodied radiance. With her roots as a world-renowned performer and decades of healing mastery, Gina weaves art, intuition, and spirit into every space she holds, igniting deep transformation, poetic permission, and divine remembrance. Her work is not just healing, it's a full body homecoming. My friends, I get to introduce Gina Starbuck.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for that. When you were saying I don't read anyone's bio, I had a moment of like, oh, because I put so much heart into the ever evolving bio. Thank you for honoring this one because this is the newest iteration. Just like I am ever evolving, you are ever evolving. My bio is essentially something slightly different every single time I do a podcast interview or a gig or whatever. But I even got chills when you were reading that one. So.
It was so fun. And I think you could add to, like, if you ever needed more work or anything, you could add that you're available to rewrite people's bios because, and I'm not going to mention any names of bios that I've read or anything like that. I may have you take a look at my own bio and see what you can do with it. But I'm thrilled to have you on the It's All Good show. Since you and I connected, I've been following you on the social media platforms, Facebook, but even more notably, Instagram. And you are, I mean, you're like everything that your bio says you are. I'm thrilled. And I know you just got back from Tulum
Yes.
or relatively recently. I saw some great pictures. We were there a couple of months ago, and it's an amazing place. I know you have a trip coming up to Egypt in November. I know that we're not going to have any shortage of things to talk about in all this, so I don't even know where to start, really. You sent some topics, and I was like, wow, this is so good. And I guess I want to start off with, I mean, you've obviously been doing this for a while,
Yeah.
whatever this is, just like you as the container that you've mastered to be present in reality for the rest of us. But outside of the bio that I just read, which was so exciting, um, share something about you, like what drives you to be constantly what appears to be always recreating yourself, and it feels like you're always in an energetic of expansion.
This is a beautiful question. Okay. Well, currently, I feel I am absolutely in an energetic expansion. Something I know to be true about myself, like just on a soul level, right? Is that I have this awareness that that I, for whatever reason, am meant to be on this planet to sort of shapeshift, but with this very clear knowing that like the central column or like the essence of who I am, which is basically like elemental joy, is what I've sort of named it as of recently, is kind of always and forever intact. And it's interesting you use the word expansion because I've been lately like really in my awareness the ebb and flow of life, right? The contraction and the expansion and just however present it is. And I think I might even go as far to say as I know that yes, I am ever expanding, and part of that is having the like acceptance that even in those periods of contraction, that it just is sort of part of the whole, if that makes sense. And I'm currently like something I personally share is right now in this moment in my personal life. I'm not even like all the way on the other side of this, but I've just sort of journeyed through probably like the darkest night of the soul I've had in this body to date. And part of the beauty of that is, as you're witnessing in my Instagram, I'm so freaking just lit up about holding the opposite polarity, right? It's like, yeah, I've journeyed through the depths of the absolute darkest aspects of the underworld. And now I've gathered like so many more tools and so many more keys to emerge. And I'm also just that much more committed to living my life fully because I really felt in that this last like dark night of the soul, there were so many moments that I felt like, wow, I'm gonna collapse under the pressure of this. Like this is so heavy that I felt like I was dying. And I know, like we could go really deep with this topic. Like there were pieces, aspects of me that were dying. But with that has come this call to like be even more alive, even more electric, even more unapologetic with the fact that I am human and also I am a multidimensional being who has so much power and beauty and like essence and just joy again joy to share with the world. So that was a very long-winded answer. I hope
No,
that
and
that
I
answered your
loved it. I
question.
absolutely loved it. And I mean, in the world the way it is now, we're seeing the crumbling of systems and the rebuilding of refreshing, whatever we want to call it, of something that serves us at a higher level. But we also see a lot of people, I do, a lot of people that are not handling it well. And so they're not handling the changes of their own lives, of the world around them. They're getting caught up in I love when you said you're multidimensional and people get caught up in being like the 3D, politics, this, that, and the other, and the 5D is way out of that. None of spinning things around and everything. I'm getting all animated. And not understanding that there's no matter what's going on in reality, and I'm constantly saying it's going to get even more chaotic than it appears right now, that that there's a art of being able to be joyful and be expansive and find the beauty in everything. And that's why I'm so enlivened with your energy. And so share with us, like you just said, you just went through the darkest night of your soul. I mean, how, and look at you right now. Like, look at you. You're absolutely glowing. Your energy is off the charts as everything that I watch about you is. How do you do it?
This is a good question. I What's most resonant in my heart to share today, because there's like so many answers I could give you in this, is that I don't do it alone. There are so many humans in my life, and I have cultivated such beautiful, powerful, deep relationships with people who can actually see me, who can see me in the form I'm in right now, which is very radiant and alive and electric, and who can also see me in those deep, dark places, and who can hold a mirror up to me and say, hey, I understand what you're going through. I honor this process. Like, I know it hurts. I know you're in pain. And remember who you are. And I know for me, this most recent season, like, that was probably the number one piece that really helped to kind of hold me through this. And beyond that, it's drinking my own medicine. Like the stuff that I teach, that I share with people, it works. Like getting into my body, number one, using my voice as a healing tool, right? Whether it's like going fully into the Akashic field through the ancestral song lines, which is like part of my practice, or it's just humming, toning, feeling, okay, I've got this pain in my body. I've got this emotional pain. How can I sing this through my voice? How can I move this through my being? And the thing is, like, if we engage with something long enough, it always will transform. That's just like the nature of reality. So I have spent a lot of time in these practices that I teach. Like they really do work. And then beyond that, I feel this impulse or this almost, I want to call it an obligation without making it like a heavy obligation. Like, I just know I'm here to be fully alive. If I wasn't in my like fullest aliveness, in my fullest expression, and actually sharing like the truth of who I am beyond just this physical form, but including it, I wouldn't be fulfilling the mission that I have as a soul. Like, I am not a soul who came into to spend too much of my time in the density. Like I actually came to share these codes of like liberation and ecstatic joy and beauty and freedom. And so that does tend to pull me out of those spaces as well. It's like I can't do a disservice to humanity by steeping too long in the things that are trying to maybe knock me off course. And, I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things that we could get into about this. Like there is, I imagine you're somebody who is aware of these things. Like there are energies out there. There are systems. There are whatever we want to call it, entities, forces that do want to stop the this process of those of us that are here encoded with this like light force. And sometimes it's also just remembering that and not claiming it, because those things are so sneaky. Like these thought patterns will come in that can convince themselves that they're yours. Like, this is the way I am, this is how I am, this is my ego or whatever. And sometimes we're just meant to be like, no, this is not me. I do not own this. I do not consent to this energy, and to show up a little bit in the like warrior archetype. And I think this is maybe coming forward, and I want to give you a chance to talk because I do tend to be long-winded, as you can see. But I think sometimes we don't associate like joy or lightness with the warrior. But I know for me, this is like not something that most people might see me and go immediately be like, oh, she's a warrior. But I am like such a warrior. I will go to war for the sake of love over and over and over again. And I have, on my own behalf and on behalf of many other beings. And so anchoring into that sometimes too is a big move for me. Like just putting that warrior suit on and fighting for the truth.
There's so much in what you just said, and I'm just like, there is no mistake that you and I are having this conversation. Like energy attracts like energy, and I'm a little surprised we haven't connected before this. But I love what I would refer to as um your embracing of your responsibility as a human, as a multidimensional being. And that to me is just the piece that sets so many of us apart. Like I say to everyone, like if you woke up breathing, of course, if I'm talking with them, they did. You have a very important role to play here, and it's not for me or anyone else to judge anyone's individual role, but it's like we're here for a reason, and reality gets can be very persistent with those systems and everything else to get us locked into a rut, locked into the system itself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really honor everyone that has found a way to break out of that, not get caught up in it, and assist other people in seeing the possibilities, the infinite possibilities, as opposed to, no, this is where I'm locked in, and this is what have to do, should do, all of this, and it's like, no, got to break out of all that, because there's so much more, and we all have really beautiful, unique gifts to share, codes, whatever our downloads are, whatever got us broken out of our shell to be the expansive beings that we are. And so I want to hear about what it is you're sharing out there. I mean, I've seen pictures of you doing what looked like really beautiful, amazing energy work on people, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this looks really cool. What what is your work? I don't know what else to call it. At this time, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What are people experiencing from you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the question that keeps asking is what I want to say. It's taking form moment to moment, but I would say that the essence of what I do, the sort of commonality, and this goes kind of across what do I want to say? Like it transcends the vehicle, right? Because I do also like just proper teach dance still at some of these like Hollywood professional dance studios because I was a professional dancer and performer before, and I facilitate retreats and I do these like very multidimensional sound ceremonies where it becomes psychedelic, but we're not actually ingesting any psychedelics when I'm facilitating. And so there's many, many ways that I'm sort of sharing this medicine, if we'll call it that. But I feel that the work is in, I would call it like liberation work, maybe, because I really see in everyone that I work with that whatever I'm offering is kind of just guiding each person back home to themselves, to like the essence of who they are, to the unique frequency and resonance of their soul, but most importantly through the body. So it's also deep, deep embodiment work. I'm not one of those teachers or facilitators or guides who tends to take people on these like very interdimensional journeys and then we stay floating out there. It's very much the work of bringing all of that wisdom, all of that information, the liberation, the clearing, whatever occurs in like through the body, through the cells, and kind of unshackling the things, the energies, the belief systems, the even like the guarding, right? Because a lot of humans right now, based on centuries of trauma, we might call it, or the sensation of unsafety, right? Because even if we don't know that there are these systems out there, like in our conscious minds, that are trying to enslave us, we're all energetic beings. There's a resonance field between all of us. And so many people are kind of walking around bracing, bracing because they don't feel safe to actually be free. And, also there's oftentimes like soul imprints, right? Like I work with a ton of women that come in with these witch wounds, right? Like that have literal past life memories of being burnt at the stake or being witch hunted or things like that, and I really tend to support like people, mostly women, I work with mostly women, in anchoring so deeply into themselves, into their power and their like divine essence, that those things just start to kind of to break free and pop off. And I, as of late, I've really been called to work with women that are in the systems, like corporate women, women that are like CEOs or working for like big money companies that are, and they're like these really spiritual, really gifted, like mystic goddesses, but they're unsure, like, how do I be this inside of this system? And a lot of them come to me and they're like, I just want to leave my work and I want to learn to do what you're doing. And most of the time, it's not that. It's actually that they just need to learn to operate from like that embodied soul essence and carry that energy into these companies, and then it starts to shift like the whole culture. So that is like a big part of the work that I'm being called to right now. And that also extends into, I took a huge break away sort of from Hollywood. I was like a very successful, mostly dancer, but I sang and acted and did a lot of things in the industry. And when I became a mom, I decided to completely remove myself from that world. And as of late, I've been called back in. Not that I'm going to become a full-time performer or anything again, but it's this same thing. It's like I have to share this embodiment, this power, this resilience, this like soul, I don't even know what to call it, this soul soldiership with this industry, so that we can start to shift that system as well. Because the only way anything's going to change, I believe, is if there are humans that are completely embodied, that have the tools to really stay centered in their like divine essence, who are operating within the society, within the culture, right? Like a lot of people, and this is true, some people have a calling to just remove themselves entirely from the system, to like go and build, homestead and like just be off grid, out of the system. And that's okay. And I totally honor that. But the work that I do is not that. Like the work that I do is bridging the gap between the worlds. And it's taken me a while to accept that, honestly, because I tried. I tried to just remove myself entirely from the 3D and it didn't work. I just kept getting like I was sick for a while, honestly. Like I was not well physically. And I know now that a lot of it was because I was just hiding. I was like trying to escape this calling, and now that I am not escaping it, I'm so much more supported.
Wow. So there's going to be people watching this that are deeply immersed in the system, and they're going to be feeling your energy, my energy, and the question that I feel they may have is, how do I shift? And so, do you have you must have your own story of how I don't know, maybe you were never really that immersed in the system and you were always like this. I don't know, but what would you say to people, or how does your particular experience relate to what how other people can integrate and become happier in this whole process of being you?
I feel there's a lot of ways that this can happen. There's no one way, right? This is part of the beauty of just humanness and free will. But what I want to share right now with this particular audience, what's coming through, is like start simple. Start by just shifting the micro things. Like if you may have given a lot of your attention to, your energy to, your life force or presence or your worry to whatever it is, right? Like let's just say it's the news, Maybe you just decide you're not going to do that. you're gonna do it less. Maybe instead of watching the news so frequently, you turn it off and you put on like a podcast like this, right? Or you put on a song and you just dance. Because we're not like biologically, we are not designed to have awareness, like conscious mental awareness of all of the pain of the entire world. Our nervous systems can't handle that, but we're living in this world, right, that is interconnected by the internet. And so we do know what's going on, in other countries. And we do know the pain and suffering far beyond our little micro communities. And that is not how it's supposed to be. And I know a lot of people get caught up, like many of us, myself included, like I want to help. I want to help the world. And so we can think like, well, how can I help? How can I help the bigger picture? And some people are called to help in ways that does require you to process the pain of the bigger picture, right? But for me, you cannot be effective even in that until you have some sense of like centeredness in your own spirit and in your own body. So the other piece is like start to shift your focus and start to shift your focus inward. Start to like notice. I do this with a lot of my clients, like especially early on, just connecting with your physical body. Like, what does it feel like? What's the difference between like the pad of your finger touching your face and like your nail touching your face? That's a completely different sensation. Like, what's the relationship between your ribs and your rib cage and the air around you and the breath that fills your lungs? Like, how does it feel to try to breathe a little bit more from the right side of your rib cage? How does it feel to try to breathe a little bit more from the left side of your rib cage? Just noticing like the physicality, right? Like and then noticing your relationship to your own body because some people can't even like do this, put hands on their own heart without feeling like triggered or uncertain. And so I feel like for a lot of people, it's just redirecting your attention toward things that are less chaotic and also redirecting your attention to your own body, your own being. And then we have to sort of unravel the idea that a lot of people have, which is that our bodies are problematic. I see this a lot in both spiritual circles and in just people who are more immersed in like the what we might call the 3D, right? Like so many people are carrying this wound that the body is a problem. The body is too dense. The body is too heavy. The body is this or that, right? But it's like our bodies are encoded with so much wisdom. Like if you can just sing the tone, you can hum the tone of your womb or your heart or your throat, you can feel there's messages inside of our bodies that are just waiting to emerge through us. And then the other piece, and this is what I teach people to do in my work, regardless of where I'm at, dance studio, retreat, ceremony, session, whatever, is that of course we're supported, right, by having space held by other humans. That's why I have a job, because I hold space for other humans. But if we really like get down to it, we have every single thing that we need inside of us. Like, and it's all just waiting to emerge. And this is why for me, teaching people how to sort of free themselves through their creativity is the move, right? And it's also like I just love creativity so much. I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to shout, I love to animate through my body. And so, yeah, I think that is what wants to be shared right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. I I'm having a lot of contact with people recently that so I kind of feel like for humanity right now, the available potentials
Mm,
are more abundant than any other time. And if people had this realization earlier in earlier times for humanity, I think they've always been available. But I think between the internet and just seeing all these opportunities and everything, and I have people come to me and they have no idea how to choose what
mm,
direction to go into, or they're drawn to like eight different things, but it's they can't possibly be focused on manifesting any one of those, let alone all eight, by holding them all open like that. How does your perspective and your work, your what you've learned assist people in that kind of scenario? Because it's like, the world is amazing and look at all this that's available. And most people are like, oh my gosh, and so what would you say or suggest for those folks?
this is amazing. The overwhelm of having so many options. I deal with that like all the time. Um, I like to teach people, or rather help them discover for themselves where the embodied yes and the embodied no lives. Like for an example, for me, when something is an embodied yes, I typically feel it as like a big expansion in my heart. Like I want to lead with my heart and lean toward it. If something is an embodied no, or even a not right now, there's usually like a little bit of like a wobbliness in my system. And I've learned these things with years and years and years of practice in getting to know my body. But I tend to, have people lean on that, the embodied yes, the embodied no, or the embodied kind of not right now. And that can help with the decision making process. At the same time, I like to remind people that we've got to get into a deeper relationship or a more intimate relationship with the divine, right? The divine moves through us, but like if I am making a choice that is only about me and I'm forgetting that I am a part of the bigger whole, it probably isn't going to work out very well for me anyway, right? So when I'm making a choice, I'm checking in about my embodied yes, my embodied no, but I'm also checking in with like my guides assigned to me at birth, my well ancestors. This is for big decisions, right? Like I'm not calling on my well ancestors all the time to ask, should I eat like a taco or a chicken burrito for today? You know what I mean? But this is for like the bigger things because we forget sometimes that we have support. Like we have healed and well ancestors who very easily will tell us if we're in communication with them enough and we know how to hear their response, like so this is again a long-winded answer, but I think also we can narrow it down, right? So we can use just our own process of like, how does this feel to maybe narrow it down? Like say there's 8 options, maybe we can narrow it down to 4 or 3 in our own process, and then we can check in with our guides or our ancestors or spirit, and just say like, okay, I like to ask spirit to light it up, to like illuminate for me what is correct. So if I'm narrowing it down to 3 choices, I'm seeing in my field of vision the 3 options, and I might even like play out the scenario. Okay, if I make this choice, these are the likely outcomes. And then I'll just ask spirit, like light up the path. Show me with light. And this is how I tend to see it, but it's going to be different for everybody. Um, the other thing though is like if we really sit with it, there is kind of no wrong or right decision. So I tend to remind my clients of that as well. Like any choice you make is going to be a holy choice because it's the choice that you're making. And no matter what you do, there will be medicine in it. There will be growth growth. There will be lessons. Some of these paths will be much easier than others. But sometimes also we're just committed to, like, I recently actually had some things happen in my life where I could have very easily said no to a specific, kind of timeline. And even there were people telling me like, probably not right now for that. But somewhere in my soul, I was just committed. Like, okay, this is going to probably get hard. This might get messy, and I don't care. I am committed to making this choice because it's just the choice that I'm feeling pulled toward. And then you have to kind of uh journey through the consequences of that choice. So yeah, I know I get the sense that you were wanting me to give kind of a simple answer to help
Yeah.
people in this.
Your
That's not
answer,
quite at
your answer
all.
was perfect. Your answer was absolutely perfect. Now, you mentioned that you stepped into motherhood.
Yes.
And so, one natural question, and you probably get this, is how do you juggle the responsibilities of being a mother, of being everything else that you are for other people, and then what you need to be for yourself?
Hmm. I think it was much harder to do until recently. My daughter's 8 now, and we know that like the first 7 years, the child tends to share an aura with their mother. And you could feel it. Like I could feel around the age of 7, I could really start to feel like, oh my gosh, she's starting to orient to her own little orbit. And I'm like recalibrating to my orbit. So, right now, today, as she's 8, it's much easier than it was, especially those first couple of years. For me, it's really about compassion and knowing that, like, there's always going to be something in raising a child that is unexpected or unpredictable. You really cannot plan and plot too much or too far in advance. And you just have to get really, really good at, adjusting. But being a mom has made me so much better at the work that I do. Like, not just in the front end with the like energy transmissions and stuff, but on the back end, like of planning a retreat. It's like, oh, that's not going to work out. Oh, that chef pulled out at the last minute. Oh, that person has this issue. It's just like, okay, cool. Like I've gotten really good at just changing the choreography, moment to moment. But also right now we're in the process of a separation, but my daughter's dad is an incredibly present and wonderful, helpful dad who, shows up, and we are able to really share the responsibilities of pouring into our little girl. And, I have always, maybe not always, around the time my daughter was like 3, I really started to get honest with myself about how much it is a benefit to her to witness me pouring into myself. Of course, not to the point or the extent where I'm going to ignore her or her needs or make her, not the center of my universe, because she really is. Um, but, she needs to see that I am committed to showing up for myself and taking care of myself. And I know that sometimes that will make her angry or will frustrate her or will cause impatience. But in the long run, right, when she becomes a mom, when she's a partner, when she's juggling work and parenting and being a partner and just living her life, I know that there's going to be that imprint on her that says, "Oh yeah, I have to take care of me." And she knows now. Like I will verbally tell her sometimes, "Hey, mommy is maxed out right now. I need a moment. I need a breath. I need to take a bath. I'm taking care of me. Once I fill my own cup, I will help you with what you need," And I just am so committed to showing her that because I grew up in a culture and kind of a season where most of the moms were way, way, way far in the martyrdom and self-sacrificing paradigm. And many of us are still with total love for our mothers because they did the best they could. Many of us are still kind of recalibrating and rebalancing that.
I love hearing you say this. I have a 24-year-old daughter, and I have a year and a half old grandson.
Oh,
And so my daughter is just getting a website off the ground, and she sent me her first blog, which is, I think it's titled Manifestation 101. And I and she said, I just here I've made it editable for you so you can change things and this and that. And I read it, I was literally in tears.
mm,
Um, there wasn't anything I wanted to change because it came so purely through her. And then I realized that I did something right along the way. And she's got a fabulous mother also. We're not together, but I realized from the very beginning that she was going to take the best from both of us, and that loving my daughter meant also loving those qualities in my ex, even though she was my ex. And it just that responsibility of being the conscious example, and instilling in our children what we know wasn't instilled in us that we had to learn along the way. And yes, our parents did the best they could with the tools they had available. And I'm at an age that my parents are no longer here, and I miss them dearly. Um, well, um, you know, because I would love for them to see what they gave, what,
mm,
what they gave me that has allowed me to step into who I am today. And they got to see some of that for sure. I had become Dr. Dream while they were still here, and it was an interesting process. I was groomed to be a successful businessman, an entrepreneur, not what I'm doing, but I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and I spent a number of years wanting to be a rabbi. I mean, we were Reform Jews in Omaha, which is like pretty loose. But the one I saw in my community that was doing the most selfless work was the rabbi.
mm,
And so I think, and I was successful in business and all of this until I had my awakening. And it was like, I've got the big house in Sedona. I've got this, that, and the other thing. And so now it's the trap. Gee, I need either another house or a bigger house or, a more expensive car or on and on. And I said, wait a sec, that's, something in me. Thank goodness I was able to connect with it. Said, this is not why you're here. This is
mhm,
absolutely not why you're here. And it was just a few days ago, my daughter sent me that blog, and I realized that she learned some really, really good things. And not because I forced it on her, just because that's what I have always lived. And
mm,
and that's what I gave to her. And I'm excited for you. And 8 years old is like amazing. And they all the ages are amazing. But just from this conversation that you and I have had so far, knowing that your child is getting the benefit of what you've grown to learn and put into practice and everything like that is, we will all expect amazing things from her in whatever flavor she turns that into. And that's awesome. And it's got to be what a nice experience for you to have this experience of motherhood, and allowing you also then a greater ability to relate to the women. I imagine some of them, maybe many of them, are mothers also. Um, and just kind of knowing the things that they've gone through or are going through and helping navigate that. Now, you've got a group coming up. You're taking a group to Egypt. And I imagine, is it mostly women? Is it all women?
Yes, the plan for this one is all women. I actually, for the last 6 years, I've been facilitating women's retreats, not because I want to exclude anyone, but just because that's what Spirit asked me to do, because a lot of what we do is womb work and like really reclaiming the womb mysteries and the power of the womb. And men have energetic wombs, but they don't have wombs, and it's a unique essence, right? And also like just like in our culture, there's such a shortage of women gathering, and I have all these deep soul imprints of like being with women, in the temples of Isis, which, will lead into Egypt, but just, being out in the woods and howling at the moon. It's like everywhere in my soul, like most of the really magical memories that I have from whatever lifetime timeline I go into is with women, in co-creation with women. So funny enough, with Egypt, I originally made it an all genders retreat. And I had many, many women say to me, I don't feel comfortable going if it's not all women. Um, and that's a whole other conversation. A lot of women are continuing to work through wounding with the masculine, with men, with these kind of relational dynamics. And yeah, so just being sensitive to what I was hearing from the women in my network, I just decided, okay, we're gonna make this one a women's retreat too. It's a priestess pilgrimage, to Egypt. I actually haven't physically been to Egypt yet. I have a deep, deep, deep soul resonance with Egypt and memories. Like I know I've been there before. But I have a dear sister who has been facilitating Egypt journeys for the last 5 or 6 years. And so she's helping to kind of co-create and curate the journey. And I'm so excited because like I was just in Tulum. I'm actually doing a private retreat the end of this month in Mount Shasta. I know you've been to sacred sites all over the world, and just the resonance of these places. It kind of goes beyond description. It's hard for me to even put into words what happens when we get our feet in the soil and, with Egypt, our hands on the temple walls. And, these places hold wisdom. They hold codes, they hold activations and memories. And it's one thing to kind of take a soul journey to Egypt and be in the temple in your own field of awareness, but it's another thing to kind of receive that essence into the body, into this body, and every time I go to any sacred site anywhere, and I've been all over the place, it does something to me, like not just spiritually, but on a physical level. So I'm really excited to see what's going to unfold in these temples of Egypt.
We may have to have another conversation when you get back. I had years ago, I went to Egypt. It was incredibly powerful. This was in the 80s. I've traveled to sacred sites all over the world. And what I've found is that I had codes to share
Mm.
there and codes to pick up. And I just find it incredibly exciting what you're doing. So I'm going to put it in my tickler file to check back in with you after Thanksgiving when you're back. Do you still have some spaces available for
I
people?
do. I do. We're filling up, but I still have two private room options, which I know is like a huge deal. Most of my people want their own private room. So if you are one of those people, you're listening, this is calling to you and you want a private spot, like jump in on this now. And then we've got some shared spaces still available as well. This is a bigger group. So
How big
uh,
of a group is it?
it's going to be 14 is the number that we are planning right now, plus myself and Sarah, who are co-facilitating. And I'm so glad that you touched on, both receiving and having something to offer the site, because that's also been my experience as well. It's like these sites are activating us and we're helping to activate them.
And it's kind of what I read in your I'm just going back to the bio, and it where is it? I mean, it's like what you bring into every space that you hold. And I love how you talk about holding space, that that's what you do. And that concept, that ability is so important.
Mhm.
And it's like what I say I do for people is, people say, how can I do phone calls and this all the time and things I don't charge for and everything? They say, how can you do that? And it's like, I'm just holding space. And so many people don't know where to go or who to turn to. Like everybody wants to be a fixer and this and that, but just to hold space, hold loving, non-judgmental space for people to see themselves in whatever way they need to see themselves, experience their own answers and everything just in a safe container, as it were. And so just before we leave the Egypt conversation, what would somebody expect from, like, what would the expectation from a trip like this with you and Sarah be like?
Well, this one is definitely not a retreat. This is a pilgrimage. So, a lot of people hear the word retreat and they think relaxation and recovery and that kind of thing. And it's not that we won't have time to relax and integrate, but we are on the move for this one. So we are spending our first 2 nights at Mina House, which is like a luxury resort right at the base of the pyramids. And we will start our journey at the pyramids of Giza with private access to the Sphinx and to the King's Chamber. So being inside of, the pyramid. And then we will fly from Cairo to Luxor and we will board a ship and we are going to be sailing the River Nile for 6 nights, visiting various temple sites along the way. Um, the funny thing about expectation is expect the unexpected is what I want to say. All of the journeys that I lead, all of the retreats, you should come in expecting the unexpected. And especially with this Egypt journey, I'm just very, very, very aware that we're going to be sort of co-creating the field, right? And that what unfolds will be a dance between each other, with ourselves, with the sites themselves. Like I'm expecting a lot of like soul memories to come alive, whether that means actual like cognitive awareness of like, oh, I was here and this is what I was doing and this is who I was, or it's more just in your body, feeling that aliveness in your body. Because when I remember being in Egypt, I remember having the kind of embodiment and mastery where I could literally move, objects with my intention. And I know that we have that potentiality now. I have not mastered that in this body, but like that being in the place where I know that this happened, that does something for you. People can expect sisterhood, they can expect sound transmissions, a lot of embodiment, just the same things that's always happening when you're with me, which is like truly not only remembering who the fuck you are, excuse my language,
Love it.
but um but also being like bold enough to claim it, right? And kind of getting out of those weird things that cause women to not be who you are fully. Like I just shared recently like a video of the first night of my Tulum retreat, like 2 of my participants, and they're like beautiful, of course, and radiant, but they're so like upright and just they're in the meditation and they're just eager to receive and you can just feel the stress in their body and they're just like, And then I shared a video of both of them on the last day, and they're like dancing. One of them's like up against a tree, like hip rolling, and just like totally loose. And it's just like, I just watch these women, like they're like roses, they like tend to come where they're like kind of in the bud, or maybe they're a little bit open, but they, by the end of the journey, it's just like the flower just completely unfurled itself. So you can expect that.
Oh, that's awesome. What a treat it will be for everyone that gets to have that experience and opportunity with you. I do look forward to hearing about it. Um, you talk a lot about being embodied and the embodiment and the movement and as I'm sitting here, I realize that probably a lot of people are not connected in their bodies, let alone embodied.
Mhm.
Um, what I mean, so someone's listening to this, going to listen to this or watch this, and they're going to be like, "How do you do that? Like, how I can't come see Gina or anything, but if I could just get an edge on how to get back connected to my body, what would you tell those people?"
Well, first, this is kind of a chuckle moment. I do have a plug. I have a freebie if you want to share it with your people. It's
Absolutely.
it's literally called the Embodied Power Session, and I'm guiding people into the body through the voice with the soul connection. So you can do it with me.
That's awesome.
And I would say whatever helps you feel connected to your body, but also brings you joy. This is the thing I would recommend, right? Like some people love to dance. I love to dance. But some people are like, when it comes to dance, right? Some people love to lift weights. I also love to lift weights. I used to hate it, but it it saved my life. It got me healthy again after a long period of struggling with my health. Some people like to go for walks. Some people like to do kickboxing or taekwondo, or some people love yoga. I cannot stand yoga. People look at me and they're like, "You're a spiritual human. Like you must be a yogi." And I'm like, "No. I don't there you will never find a yoga class on a retreat with me. I do not like yoga. I won't do it. But I say this to say, sometimes people think, "Oh, I need to get embodied. I need to get in my body." Like, but I'm spiritual. I must take a yoga class. But like for me, yoga doesn't bring me any joy. Why would I do that? I'm just at war with my body the whole time. Like, oh God, I have to hold another pose. I don't like it. So whatever helps you get in your body and brings you joy. It might be like getting out into the garden and just tending to your plants, but having some physical movement. It really doesn't have to be that serious either. Like I think some people get caught up in this thought of like I have to labor myself into embodiment, but actually your soul wants to be connected to your body. Your soul does not want to be floating out in the nether worlds. Like it wants to be connected in this body, at least in this timeline. Sure, you can journey out, right? But you always need to have a tether, because if you're not in your body, then you run the risk of getting hijacked and having these like dark forces come in, and we don't want that. So anyway, I just say this to say like your body wants to work with you. Your soul wants to be embodied. And so if you just give it a little bit of an opportunity, the body and your soul will do the rest of the work. And then, just do more of it. Whatever it is that brings you joy through the body.
Fabulous. I appreciate that answer so much. Um, so before we end this conversation, are you called to share anything else? I just kind of went with the flow on everything, but is there anything that you want to throw in here at the end?
Hmm. Well, this is present for me. You spoke a little bit to like the way I received what you said, which is that we have all this sort of untapped potential within us, like as humans. And it just made me think about something that I've been moving through as of late, and like essentially all my clients in different ways, and even just friends, family, people in my life, is it seems like we're in this like collective process of mourning or grieving, like potentialities that maybe we put a lot of our heart or like staked a lot of like our energy into, and we are kind of in this collective redirection pattern is what it feels like to me. This may not be true for every human that's listening to this, but this is just something that's like really, really in my field. And I just want to say that it's okay to be disappointed, that there's this perception also that like disappointment or grief or pain and joy can't coexist. But my experience has been that they absolutely can. You can simultaneously be really upset that something you really, really wanted didn't quite pan out. And you can be really joyful that that opens the door for something else. Like they don't, it's not one or the other. And I feel like this is kind of like a blueprint for like a collective wave that's coming in where we're starting to not be so black and white about pleasure and pain, or joy and sorrow, whatever polarities we want to call it. It's like that was another piece for me in that dark night of the soul that I touched on. Like I had a friend say to me, I am so in awe of you right now because this is like some of the darkest, heaviest stuff ever. But look at you. Like you're still laughing. You're still joyful. Like, how are you even doing this right now? And I was saying to her, I don't really know, but I do feel that that's also one of the gifts that I have in this life. It's like I realized also that I have, for whatever reason, I have never closed my heart ever. I know that people do that. It's like a protective mechanism. It happens. I don't know what it is about me. I never even thought consciously about it, but I've never closed my heart. And I feel like I just want to put in this space here just this reminder that, like, it's okay to let your heart be open and let your heart have its space, regardless of whether there's pain or grief or whatever in there. So that's kind of my final word.
So much. I really appreciate this energizing and enlightening conversation that we've been able to have. Honored to have met you. Look forward to more contact with you. And thank you so much for being a guest on the It's All Good show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so, so delightful to just meet you and chat with you.
One day in person.
Yes, absolutely. I would love that.
Thank you.
Thank